here are 3 characteristics that are going to really help you see, have you experienced emotional incest? A major characteristic of someone who has experienced emotional incest is this. Oftentimes, you have a profound feeling of not being safe. You don't feel safe. You don't feel settled in your system. It always feels like there's some shoe about to drop. There's some calamity around the corner. Your nervous system is always on edge. You feel anxious. So if you struggle with anxiety or these feelings of anxiety, it may or may not make any logical sense, chances are you grew up with parents that were unsettled themselves. For example, and this is a pretty amazing fact to be aware of, when a child is in the room with a parent or an adult, for that matter, whoever the primary caregiver is in that room, a child's nervous system, their breathing pattern, their heart rate, they've done some tremendous studies that will actually show that if a child is in the room with the parent long enough, their heart rate and their breathing pattern and their nervous system will sync with that of the parent or the caregiver. Let that sink in for a minute. That is how powerful an adult's presence is in the life of a child. Their breathing pattern, their nervous system, their heart rate will literally sync up with that caregiver. So this means, right, if a parent is stressed out, anxious themselves, in a dysregulated state, it will cause anxiety in your children by default. If children who are living with dysregulated parents, the child oftentimes will try to regulate the parent. So the relationship becomes inappropriate. The child then becomes a parent in some ways, trying to appease. Now, this can look a lot of different ways, right? So there's always rules of the game. For some families, you have to appease a parent. Maybe a parent gets angry very easy. Maybe a parent flies off the handle very easy. So then the child has to learn the rules of that parent and try to appease the parent that way. Maybe the parent is more emotionally, sad, depressed. A child may take on the role of a caregiver to try to comfort, to soothe that parent. If that's happening, that is emotional incest because the relationship has been inverted. Instead of the parent soothing the child, pouring energy and life into the child, that child then has to pour it back into the parents, and then the relationship becomes inappropriate, and that child then is actually missing that sustenance, that growth, that comfort, that love, whatever it is that they need. That child is missing that. So it means they are not developing the way they need to. And oftentimes they're emotionally stunted in some way, shape, or form, and trauma is a result of that. If that's you, if you grew up in a home where you had to be the soother, the fixer, the provider, if you had to jump through hoops to keep a parent in a regulated state, you probably experience massive anxiety. I've worked with a ton of people that have this very issue, okay? Second characteristic or pattern that a lot of people have who experienced emotional incest in a home is this. You have tremendous shame. You have tremendous shame. When you grew up with a parent who felt themselves dysregulated, or maybe they felt like they were operating from a place of not enough, a sense of lack, they probably became very critical. And a parent who is very critical to children, right, is projecting onto them their own self-shame. But as a result, they're trying to fix the child. So if you're a critical parent or you had a critical parent, oftentimes what that means is your parent was trying to work out their own sense of inadequacy in the child. They wanted you to perform. They had high standards for you. Maybe they wanted you to get all A's. They wanted you to excel in all the sports. They wanted you to be the top of your class. And it seems really benevolent. It seems like they just want the best for me. But it's very tricky. A lot of times, it's just the parent who's working out their own sense of failure, their own sense of inadequacy, and they're projecting that onto their children, wanting that child to excel, to be the quarterback of the football team, to get all A's, to be the prom king or queen, whatever it may be, right? They want their child to do what they couldn't do, and then they can feel proud or feel good about their kids. But it's often a way to extract from that child the quote unquote adequacy or perfection that they felt like they weren't able to hit themselves. and it is emotional incest. And that produces in the child a deep sense of shame, because that child feels that no matter what they do, it's never quite good enough.